What's up, wrestling fans? Maybe it's true what they said about Brock Lesnar. Maybe the reports were true about him leaving the WWE soon, or at least going back to UFC for a fight similar to how he did before. John Jones, of course, you guys know after knocking out Mr. Daniel there the other night, um, called out Brock Lesnar. Well, now Brock Lesnar has responded to John Jones. And Brock Lesnar has said, "Be careful what you wish for, young man." And that's what Lesnar said. Could there possibly be a super fight between John Jones and Lesnar? UFC obviously would want to do this. Um, but he would have to they'd have to work around Brock Lesnar's suspension. But this could just be the seeds being planted for the future fight, right? Definitely possible. We talked about this a little bit last night on Corrupted Podcast, but not a whole ton. And it seemed because we didn't have these comments from Lesnar yet. But dude, it seems like he's gonna. It seems like this is gonna happen, or at least they want this to really happen badly, and they're setting it up. I wouldn't be surprised if they just told him to go out there and say that. If you win tonight, make sure you call out Lesnar. Now that we got the exciting news out of the way, you could probably do a whole podcast on, Brock Lesnar versus John Jones and the possibilities and what could happen. We're talking about two guys who were basically both cheating or should have been suspended for the same show. Whatever, I forget which UFC that was. But Brock Lesnar ended up still fighting, and John Jones missed that show. I remember that fight, and I don't remember which UFC that was. 203 or 206? I don't even know. But a bunch of news on the Broken Universe. It looks like this thing is just going nowhere right now, at least. And I can't tell if this is a good thing or a bad thing for the Hardys, because if WWE and the Hardys have to wait until they know that they 100% own this property before they use it, well then we're just never going to get this thing. Like I told you guys, because it's a stalemate battle that will never end, because Global Force Wrestling are just asshats and they won't just stop. And there's differences, right? Because you say like, oh well, I've said this a million times in a million videos, but every time I bring this up, some dickhead writes this in the comments, so you got to bring it up to everybody. It's not really the same as WWE screwing with people, because even though I disagree with WWE from, taking the Dudleys from the Dudley Boys, taking Cody Rhodes' name or whatever, like the Rhodes name, like what the hell? That is full on scummy of WWE, no doubt, and I hate that. And years ago I didn't have a YouTube channel to get all outraged by it. The difference is the Hardys, Matt Hardy invested most of his time and everything, and even his own money into this to save TNA, because at the time they thought TNA was closing, people weren't getting paid the right amount of money. I'm sure Billy Corrigan and those guys were like, yeah, anything you can do, Matt, whatever. And Matt Hardy was like, I got this. I'm going to put my own money forward. You know what I mean? I'm going to come up with all these things that he came up with him and his wife and his family were essentially their own creative team working on the character. TNA was the platform, it's true. Jeremy Borash was definitely involved in this. But the problem is, then right as the Hardys are about to be on their way out, a new group purchases, takes over funding TNA. Ed Norholm and Anthem and all this stuff end up acquiring TNA Wrestling in after all this has happened. So the people that are saying that it's theirs, it's not really theirs in a way, because they did buy the company, but the company before that had a different agreement with Matt Hardy. And there's where the lines blur, right? Well, it doesn't matter, because it was done in the company, and that's still the company. And it's clear to me that part of the reason why, you know, Anthem and Ed Norholm bought the thing was to get the Hardy situation. And that's why they're butthurt that they could lose it. They came in having not created it, having not been a part of the creation, having nothing to do with the creation, and the people that were in TNA with Matt Hardy creating it were saying, it's yours, you use it, do whatever you want to do, thank you for saving us, thanks for funding it with your own money, Matt. All that crap. And that's why Matt Hardy was allowed to use it anywhere he wanted. At independent shows, anywhere he wanted. And that's why once Ed Norholm stepped in, he disallowed the Hardys from using it in ROH, or he attempted to block it from being used. Problem is, right now, the trademark can't be proved either way, apparently, in court or anything like that. This is amazing. Matt Hardy originally, we know this for a fact, that Matt Hardy originally filed the trademark for Broken Matt Hardy way back when. Now the USPTO, I'm sure that stands for U.S. Patent something, could see as confusingly similar if GFW is going to try to get it. They'll have to prove there is no conflict between the two. So Matt Hardy filed the trademark for Broken Matt Hardy. So if GFW tries to file a trademark, they will have to prove that there's no problem between the two with the trademark. But of course, there is a major problem between the two. So that just won't go. Also, Broken Matt, they'll also need to indicate whether Broken Matt refers to a living person. And if it does, then Matt will have to sign off on GFW using it. And since Matt is Matt, that could be a problem for them. And since Matt filed the trademark first, his application will hold precedence over the situation. So Matt Hardy holds the cards as far as that goes. The trademark of Brother Nero was refused because Global Force Wrestling, and this is the trademarks that Global Force Wrestling has tried to apply. The trademark of Brother Nero was refused because Global Force Wrestling failed to indicate whether or not it was to identify a living person. If it does, they will need the consent of Jeff Hardy, whose legal middle name is Nero. The trademark for Broken Brilliance was refused because GFW failed to specify whether or not the term has significance in professional wrestling or if it is just a term of art in the wrestling business. Now, as far as the trademark Vanguard 1, that was refused because of its similarity to another trademark not related to wrestling. So nobody may ever trademark Vanguard 1, which is fine because then, to be honest, both could use it. They could just be used anytime. All trademarks also received initial refusal because the wordings used for identification and classification of goods and services in the initial filing were too broad. The USPTO requested additional clarification. So that is the results of GFW trying to file these trademarks, trying to file trademarks that they'll never use, for the most part, anymore now that the Hardys aren't there. They're just, you see, the Hardys are trying to file to make sure that they own the rights to all this stuff so they can perform their art that pretty much mostly they came up with in the WWE. GFW is trying to file it so they can block the Hardys from doing that. And understandably, though, if you back it up, you can understand that GFW is in competition with the WWE, so they wouldn't want their competition, so to speak, although they're not really in competition because Global Force Wrestling gets 200,000 viewers a week pretty much, and WWE gets 3 million to 2 million. Both companies suffering, however, when you look at wrestling as a whole, how wrestling has died. By the way, people who comment me all the time, these little turd burglars, a lot of these people are 15, 16, 17-year-olds or 12-year-olds or 20-year-olds. I feel like they're younger people, or they're like older people who are like have a fucking screw loose. And they'll send me messages like, Joe, the WWE's making more money than they've ever made. Yeah, thanks. I've been telling people that for a long time. the amount of money that comes in for the WWE is at the largest amount it's ever been at. And you want to know why? I'll give you multiple reasons. Because WWE has created multiple different revenue streams. Because inflation, so everything just costs more anyway. That's why. Those are the two reasons, actually, right there. Because WWE's created multiple new revenue streams that they didn't have back in the day, and WWE's done a killer job at creating revenue streams. You got to give it to them. They have found a way to get a dime from every corner of the universe as far as their company goes. It's almost ridiculous. We're talking about t-shirt sales, kids' toys, wallpaper, birthday parties, video networks, DVDs, Blu-rays, network subscriptions, TV commercials, pay-per-view buys. I mean, they are just covering the gamut right now, right? But here's the problem. Profit margins. Profit margins. So let's say back in 1998, I have a lemonade stand. And in 1998, I have a lemonade stand, and I make $100 one day. But all I had to do was pay for the lemonade and the cups, and that was it. And the lemonade stand itself. Maybe it cost me $15. So I made $85. $15 it cost me to set up the lemonade stand. I made $85 profit back in 98, right? Well, let's fast forward to now, 2017. I set that same lemonade stand up. Let's say I make $300. You go, wow, damn, you just increased your profit by $285. But what if I told you I had to pay a tax on the street to put my lemonade stand there? And the taxes for the street were $250. So for the lemonade, the cups, and the tax to be on the street, it was $250. And I made $300. Well, even though I made $300 now, and I'd made only $100 back then, my profit then was $85. Now my profit is $50. Well, that's the problem. That's where the argument comes in where people say, oh, they're making more money than they ever made. Well, it doesn't look that way now to me. It looks like profit margins are not doing well. And that's easy to see because of inflation and because they've taken away pyro. And I get the economics of we don't need pyro every show. But wait a minute, when has WWE ever thought to themselves, we don't need pyro every show? They went from just pyro everywhere, pyro up the ass, to no pyro. When Brock Lesnar comes out and there's no bang, that tells me something. Even if you're not going to do much pyro anymore and you're not going to do pyro every week or whatever it is, if I was a creative person and I had the money and there was absolutely no issue with money, I would absolutely say, we must have pyro when Brock Lesnar comes out for the 7 times that Lesnar comes out in a year. When that bastard comes out here and drops his arms down, there better be a boom, boom. And that is telling, man. There's something going on. They've cut multiple shows on the WWE Network. They've cut shows that are good on the WWE Network, which I will never fucking understand. Right now, the WWE Network is like a lost child. I go on there and I think, man, the best shows that are on here are the shows that were on here. What's on the WWE Network right now that's new and hot and fresh? WWE 24 has been good, but there's like one of those every blue moon. The series on NXT was great. Breaking Ground or Proving Ground or whatever it was, that was great. They don't do that anymore. That was awesome. JBL's interviews with people, they're not there anymore. That was awesome. That prank show, that was awesome. That's gone. What do they do? That's that stupid show with the guy from Hot 96, the Stooge, with him and JBL and Corey Graves. They do that every once in a while. And all that show does is piss me off because they can't make up their minds whether they want to suck the dick of WWE or whether they're an edgy show that just talks about anything. So they bounce around on the show doing that. It's weird. Like 1 minute Corey Graves is saying stuff like, I don't think Shane should wrestle AJ at WrestleMania. I think it's a waste. And that was pretty controversial. But then the next minute it's like, oh man, the fans wanted Roman Reigns. Now they don't want him. Like they're so weird. Like it's like 1 minute they're corporate sucking up and the next minute they're telling it like it is. So I don't know what to make of that show. The women's classic is the answer. I forgot about the women's classic. That is the one thing I am looking forward to on WWE. I mean, besides NXT on Wednesday nights, and you can tell me or not whether you still watch a lot of it. I think a lot of people have dropped off watching that show. Um, but NXT every Wednesday and the Women's Classic. So those wrestling programs are going to do well on the network, and they're great. But those other 3 or 4 or 5 reasons I watch the network are gone. I find myself barely ever turning on the WWE network. And I think that that's a mistake, and that's something that WWE really, really needs to look at, and I don't know why they haven't. And that would be a major concern because right now that is one of your biggest revenue streams is the WWE network. And I don't even know how big it is. What do we got? About 2 million subscribers to the network? Not even? I'm doing the math. That's $19 million. If it's 2 million people on the WWE network for $9.99, that's $19 million. And then you got to factor out the costs of what it costs to run the WWE network and all that other stuff. I don't know what it costs to run the WWE network. I have no idea what that number is. Does it cost $1 million to keep it up with the servers and all that other stuff? Does it cost $5 million? I don't know. Let's pretend after paying the staff, paying the people that work on it, paying the crews, paying the editing, paying the servers, paying the this, paying the that. Let's say that it's worth that it's cost $6 million. Let's just say. Even if it's not, let's say it costs nothing to run the WWE network. You make $20 million a year. You know? Some of the wrestlers I mean, I think John Cena probably makes about $2 million a year, if not more. You know, that covers pretty much all the wrestlers' salaries. If 20 guys are making $100K, that's $2 million right there. 20 guys making $100K. So, you know, I don't know what the wrestlers' salary totals come up to. Maybe 50 million or 30 million or something like that. It's probably not that high. It's probably like 20 or 30 million. If it's $30 million to pay talent or $20 million to pay talent, and your WWE network is only bringing in $20 million, and then you got to pay all that other stuff. I mean, you can see how you're cutting it close. It's all about doing the shows, right? It's all about doing the shows on the road. Then it comes down to house shows and your ticket sales. And what are ticket sales right now? Ticket sales in the WWE right now are down. Down. I mean, unfortunately, when SmackDown was putting on good shows, not great shows, not terrible shows, but when they were putting on decent shows months ago, when SmackDown had that 3-month run where they were like sort of doing like a good show, Raw was doing a piss poor show, but SmackDown was doing a good show. SmackDown was actually the one that was seeing the attendance down, which I thought was just crazy unfair for them. But their attendance was the one that was down, and you could see it. And I have the photos. I have the pictures from being there, and multiple people have sent me pictures. I mean, the entire side. When you watch on TV, that whole side of the audience right in front of your face in the center that goes from the bottom front row all the way to the top, that whole area where you can see everyone's faces, the opposite side on the camera side that you never see really, that side completely black. They blacked off the whole area. That whole area was blacked off. The left and right sides. And the balconies were not sold almost at all. Almost around the entire building. So that is crazy. Like, that is incredible. For them to rent the building and put all the stage equipment and to be touring and to do all this stuff. And forget the house show, last year's Heat Wave tour or whatever it was. I took my son to that, and only 50% or so was sold. I mean, this is Boston. And you could see it looked like a super indie show. You know what I mean? It looked like 5 different independent companies were putting on a show in the building. I just couldn't believe it. When I was a kid, even when we talk about 95 and stuff being a bad year in wrestling, even when it was Bret Hart versus Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels and guys like that on a house tour back in 95 or 96 or whatever. Even that show, I went to it. We had tickets far away. That place was packed. It was almost sold out if it wasn't sold out. It was probably almost sold out. There was probably 200 tickets that weren't sold, and they were so smattered around that you couldn't tell. As opposed to, SmackDown, a TV show. SmackDown, a TV show, had less people in it than that building did when I was a kid. And I saw Bret Hart versus Owen Hart for the WWE title in a house show. Or when I saw Shawn Michaels versus Vader at a house show. That stuff. That attendance was greater then. You know what I mean? And so that's crazy. And they didn't even bring the whole setup and whatever on the house show. They just walk out from the back. You couldn't even see where they're coming from. There was no production. It was a house show, man. That was when a house show was a goddamn house show. WWE has a little LED thing that they set up now that's kind of cool, actually. Really good. It's very economical for them, but also very, very eye-pleasing and stuff. You feel like you're really at, a WWE show. But it boggles my mind to think about Boston back then and to think about it on the Heat Wave tour last year, which was heavily advertised on TV. That house show back then wasn't even as well advertised. The advertising is way better now. But people just don't want to go. Nobody wants to go. It's different. So something is wrong. 2 + 2 = 4. Okay? I am seeing with my eyes. I fully understand that the revenue streams are multiplying or have multiplied since then. No doubt about it. But I'm also seeing that the attendance is significantly dropping live. And let's look at the viewership, right? I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but people always bring this up too. They're like, oh, you fucking idiot. Who cares? People are still watching like crazy. So in 96, ratings didn't go so well. Ratings weren't doing so well in 96. I don't remember exactly what they were. But even when the WWE, I believe even when the WWE was losing to WCW in the ratings, people bring that up all the time. I think the ratings were better then than they are now. I think the ratings, when the WWE was losing the ratings war, were better then than they are now. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to look those numbers up. You'd have to tell me. But I do know when the WWE hit their hottest time with Stone Cold and The Rock and the Attitude Era and they put WCW out of business, I know that they were doing 8 million viewers, man. These motherfuckers, they were doing 8 million. And then over the course of 2000, 2001, 2002 to 2003, the WWE started losing viewership. 7 million, 6 million, 5 million, 4 million. WWE actually got down to the 3 millions, I believe, around 2002, 3, or 4. I think. When John Cena came on the scene, though, and became Cena, the Cena that we sort of know, and began to get popular, the ratings shot back up again. That's why the company dove full in on John Cena. Cena brought them back up again. And I forget what the ratings were exactly, but maybe 6 million. So imagine you're watching the ratings drop all these years, You're watching them drop down. Even when Stone Cold was kind of still there, you're watching them drop. Man, but I mean, you're never going to hit that 8 million or 9 million again. But you're watching 7, 6, 5, 4. Shit, now we're in the 3s. John Cena comes out, bam, up to the 6s. All of a sudden, you have a star. Catapults you up there because mainstream people start watching and people start tuning in to see this guy. Well, now here we are. Over the years, John Cena's worn off. And we've gone down 6, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4. And guess where we are right now? 3 million to 2 million. We've dropped down to 2 million at some times. There have been some weeks where WWE gets a 2 million rating on Raw. And they get a 2 million rating mostly on SmackDown. 2 million viewers. 3 million viewers. You are now hitting below the mark of when people were starting to panic right before John Cena showed up to save the day. Except right now there is no Cena. you're bringing in a lot of guys to please pure wrestling fans, which is great. But the problem is right now it's like they're just incapable of creating that star. And I don't want to say creating that star because creating a star is so bad. It's so superficial. That's the problem. It needs to happen organically. Hulk Hogan was surely created, but Hogan had to be accepted as well. So while he was put in place to succeed, he then succeeded and got over with the fans. In a different time, though. That was a time when you didn't tell wrestling fans it was fake. It wasn't a time where you broke kayfabe left and right and exposed the business. So that's why that doesn't work anymore. You know, WWE wonders why it doesn't work anymore. In the late 90s, the reason why that didn't work anymore is because the people were tired of it. The people wanted somebody else. The people had gone heel. The people were rough. We were rough bastards in the 90s, man. It was fucking awesome. We had the fucking Jerky Boys, Howard Stern, Jerry Springer, South Park, you name it, goddammit. We were fucking awesome. The 90s was, especially the late 90s, was the goddamn entertainment decade, motherfucker. Everybody loved it. If it was offensive, we loved it in the 90s. What the fuck happened to that time? And I think people are feeling that way again. Or they're just so comatose they don't know what they want, so you'll never get them anyway. It's one of the two. We've either turned into a bunch of fucking coma-induced idiots, or people are thirsting for this that they're not getting it. So that's what happened then. You try to push Bret Hart, you try to push Shawn Michaels, the boyhood dream, and it doesn't work. You know, even though I like those guys, but it didn't work for the average viewer because they didn't want that. They didn't want the hero Bret Hart. They didn't want the Shawn Michaels boyhood dream anymore. They didn't want the good guy showing up. They didn't want the happy Hogan. They wanted the bad guy. That's what they wanted in the late 90s. And WCW gave that to the people. And they ate it up. WWE gave that to the people. And they ate it up. Hulk Hogan, the happy say your prayers, take your vitamins, didn't work anymore. And then you exposed the business for being fake and showed all the secrets and broke kayfabe left and right. Luckily, an organic guy like John Cena came through who took the reins at a time when ruthless aggression was going on, and he was able to connect with the audience because he kind of was a dick. He was entertaining. People wanted to be entertained like crazy at that time, like The Rock. They wanted somebody like The Rock because after Stone Cold and everybody had gone badass, they really just wanted to be entertained, and The Rock could do that. But The Rock was coming and going and all that other crap, so Cena became the entertainment. He really did. Kurt Angle was a great vessel to transition into, because Kurt Angle was like one of the top guys at the time, but I think, Kurt wasn't going to be able to do it all by himself. So Cena came along, and a new audience grabbed a hold of Cena. And, I think WWE thinks that, because that worked for a little while, they did grab hold of a younger audience that was naive, that didn't know yet about wrestling. They weren't even there to hear wrestling expose themselves and to break kayfabe and all those things. But they also created a star during the time when a lot of the wrestling fans that were, pure wrestling fans were still watching, and they saw this develop, and they liked Cena. And it worked. Because he went from being this sort of jobber on the show to having a chance all of a sudden. It was done right. When things fall into place the right way, it works. You bring the Shield up. The Shield works. But when WWE chooses one of the members of the Shield to push a certain way, the fans see it, and the fans boo it. And the general audience cheers for it. And Roman Reigns is a botch, a failed botch from the start. Daniel Bryan, however, was pure. Daniel Bryan was the fans wanting Daniel Bryan because he was like them. He was like our guy. You fired him for choking a guy with a tie too much during an angle. People wrote the WWE. People freaked out on the WWE, hired Daniel Bryan back. They brought Daniel Bryan back basically to troll Daniel Bryan, it appeared. And we'll never know. We'll never know if WWE planned this all along, if they knew they could troll the fans so much that they would create a superstar in Daniel Bryan. We'll never know. We'll never know if at SummerSlam they knew exactly what they were doing at SummerSlam, it seems like, for the next months. And then Daniel Bryan not being in the Rumble. Like, either that is the biggest troll job ever on purpose, fuck you to the fans. It's either that or Vince McMahon knew all along. Let's not have him come out for the Rumble, and these people will freak out, and they'll want him even more. And we'll make them angry at us, so angry at us that they'll want to see Daniel Bryan. I choose, guys, I got to be honest. I got to believe that it's not what everybody always thought. I got to believe that Vince McMahon and the WWE is not that stupid, that they would actually not want Daniel Bryan in the main event at WrestleMania 30 and have not wanted him in the Rumble. I got to believe that there's no way that they didn't know that was going to be a problem. I might be giving them too much credit, but they have to have known. That's why they took the belt right off him at SummerSlam, to piss the fans off. And that's why at Royal Rumble, don't have him enter the Royal Rumble. And that's why they had him almost seemingly join the Wyatt family. All these things were done purposely to troll the audience, to get the audience so angry they'll keep watching because they're so mad at WWE. At that point, WWE became the heel, and Daniel Bryan was the face, and Triple H was the representation of WWE, holding back Daniel Bryan. And I got to believe, absolutely, from the beginning, that Vince and all the WWE people knew exactly what they were doing. I know everybody out there still, even people that review, still say, Vince was so dumb he wasn't even going to have Daniel Bryan in the main event until the people forced him to do it. I still don't know. I still think that Vince McMahon purposely made the people think that they forced him to do it, and that he was doing it all along. He just knew how to piss you off. And if that's the truth, a lot of people should be applauding Vince McMahon and the WWE for what they did with Daniel Bryan. And if they did do that, then fucking hats off to them. But if they didn't do it, it happened organically. And either way, Daniel Bryan became a star, and he was going to be at least the next guy for a few years, if not more. And if Roman Reigns had come around and become sort of a heel with Daniel Bryan as the face, it would have been great. And at some point during their battles, maybe eventually people would start liking Roman organically, and you could even flip Daniel Bryan, but that will never happen. Roman Reigns is cursed forever because the fans saw, a certain portion of the fans, remember how rabid people were for Daniel Bryan and how much don't fucking get in our way of Daniel Bryan, a lot of people said. Well, Roman Reigns did get in the way of Daniel Bryan the second time around, and then Daniel Bryan was injured and could never come back. So that group of the fans is scarred for life, believing that Roman Reigns, got in the way. And what's weird about the whole thing is, what makes you think that maybe Vince and them don't like Daniel Bryan, and maybe it wasn't some genius plan, was the following year, right? Daniel Bryan gets to win the IC belt at the beginning of WrestleMania, but he loses to Roman Reigns. So it almost seems like they went right back to getting off of his bandwagon. Okay, we gave you Daniel Bryan. There you go. Ha ha. All right, back to what we want to do now. So the proof is there for that too. The proof is there to show you that they wanted to just go back to what they were doing and they didn't care about you. People would also argue that, well, no, WWE knew Daniel Bryan was hurt and was always getting injured, and they couldn't go forward with him. You remember his Royal Rumble elimination that year, man? People were pissed. I don't know what to think. But based on what's been going on, maybe I do believe the WWE didn't know what they were doing with Bryan. And if that's the case, that's one of the biggest examples of an organic situation that you could have in a post-kayfabe era. And that, I believe, is pretty much everything that's wrong with wrestling in the WWE right now. And they cannot create a star. And one of the other problems is when you get a guy like Nakamura in NXT, and you get a guy like that on NXT who's so over with everybody, but then you bring him up to the main roster like he's just another guy, it's not going to work as well. It's only going to work out for Shinsuke Nakamura when they're in a very big-time wrestling city and he gets to wrestle somebody. And some young kid who's like 10 years old is sitting there, or 15 years old maybe even, is sitting there watching Nakamura and saying, I don't get what's so special about this guy. His music, I don't get this entrance. But if he watches SummerSlam, and let's say the crowd is a real hardcore wrestling New York crowd, and the crowd goes nuts, and he has a match, Nakamura has an epic match with, say, Sami Zayn or something like that, like his NXT match, and the crowd's flipping out for it, and they're having this amazing match. Well, the next night, all those kids that saw Nakamura that didn't know who he was and what he was about will all of a sudden like him because they'll say, my God, that was an amazing thing last night, because they'll feel the emotion of the crowd through the television, through all the moves and through all the close counts and all the things that they really haven't seen a lot of wrestlers do and the excitement that Nakamura brings. But when he just comes out on SmackDown to these general fans, they don't really fully get it 100%. It takes them a while of seeing him to get it. But back when you first heard Stone Cold talk, you kind of got what he was about pretty quickly. You didn't need to see Stone Cold wrestle in the ring to all of a sudden love him. You just need to hear him talk a little bit and I like that guy. He's a badass. I mean, and then one thing that happened with Steve Austin is a lot of the crowd got behind him because of his way he spoke and his badassery, right? But one of the things that finally sold it in for me was the night of the King of the Ring. I got so pumped up for him at the King of the Ring that night because of the matches he had and everything he was doing. It began to be exciting to watch him go through that tournament and get to the end. And actually, when he got to the end, I changed my mind because I was still a big Jake Roberts fan. And although I was I was actually enjoying Steve Austin, I was like, wow, I'm actually liking the bad guy. I remember thinking that as a kid. I'm actually liking the bad guy's performance. I like this guy, Stone Cold, And that was the first time I really said that out loud. I like this guy. And then when he beat Jake Roberts, I was kind of upset. I was like, man, God damn it, he just beat Jake Roberts. And then when Steve Austin grabbed the mic and he cut that promo, Austin 316 says I just whooped your ass. I was like, damn, that. And dude, right there, that's what lit the fire right there for me. So as a fan, I was watching and it all synced up perfectly for me. I kind of liked the guy for some reason. I couldn't figure out why. Then he went out there and had a match that really connected with me, and matches that connected with me during that King of the Ring tournament. And I said, damn, man, this guy really has some balls. I think that's what it made me think, wow, this guy really is a badass, and he's really good. And then that promo, man, that pumped me up. That sent me right there. I was off to the races at that point, and I think a lot of people caught on at that point too. It would take much more of the audience a lot more time to catch on through more Raws and, stunning Vince McMahon and everything that Steve Austin did after that to catch on to him. But that was the night when I became an actual Stone Cold fan. And it's those organic moments like that in the building of a character that all come together to build somebody up, to make them a star. And, you've seen it with The Rock, too. The Rock's a great example of the same sort of thing. And multiple other people, Triple H, and, the list goes on. And the WWE just doesn't have that guy now. They still don't have that guy. I don't know who that guy is going to be. Nakamura is never going to be able to speak like a lot of these people. So he's always going to be an attraction in the ring. That's the story he can tell. But he's never going to be able to speak. AJ Styles, not the best speaker either. He's all right, but really his story is told in the ring. And that's the problem. There's nobody that's going to reach through the TV and grab you and get a hold of you. Even Roman Reigns. Lots of kids can like Reigns and all that other stuff. But once again, he's not the greatest speaker either. And you can give him all the catchphrases you want and all that other stuff. He is a half charisma, half robot who spews out lines that he was basically given to read. What WWE is missing is the ad-libbing guy. The guy who can just speak, just go. Reach into the TV set and grab you. Dean Ambrose is a walking fucking hippie. Dean Ambrose walks around like he's goddamn high all the time. He doesn't reach through the TV. Seth Rollins is a babyface. Is like reading a kid's comic book. It's like listening to two teenagers talk in the bathroom. I like you. I told you I like you. I don't know why you did that to me. Like, it's so bad. Samoa Joe, right now, is one of the best guys on the mic in the WWE. But he is a stone-cut baby heel. There is just no way other about Samoa Joe. He's a cold, calculated, visceral heel. His character is not supposed to get over. Sure, there's going to be a lot of guys that chant for him, tough guy chants and stuff like that. And I like Samoa Joe, but right now he is one of the best speakers in the WWE aside from like Jericho, right? So you're talking about Chris Jericho, and I'll give you Kevin Owens too. Kevin Owens also does a great job as well, but he doesn't. He's again a heel, and he still has that sort of that line that he won't cross. It feels like, and that comes down to WWE allowing people to do what they allow them to do. So there's no way to get out of this plateau that they're in. Because at every corner there's something stifling creativity. And if you stifle creativity, you're not going to be able to grab a brass ring. And that's why either there's no brass ring or these guys are not talented when it comes to this, other than wrestling. That's it. I can't believe that these guys aren't talented, though, to do that, to be a bigger character than they are. It's got to be that they're being stifled. I've seen Dean Ambrose cut crazy promos in CZW and multiple other different independent promotions, and I've seen interesting things from Dean Ambrose. But yet he's not allowed to do that here. It reminds me of Raven. Raven in WCW. Raven in ECW. Oh, damn, did Raven have some dark, crazy, nice promos. What kind of promos did Raven have in the WWE? Not many. He just came out because he's Raven and had that crazy match with KANE at WrestleMania. And that was it. No character. Everything was relied upon the previous character from ECW and WCW. Well, right now Dean feels that way to me. He's like Raven. They treat him like Raven post WCW, ECW. Give me Dean Ambrose. Give me Jon Moxley. What would happen if I went to the WWE? Would I be stifled? I don't know. I would probably be a manager or a heel manager or something like that where I would piss the people off. Would I be allowed to do that? Or would I be stifled? Or would I be cut? Or maybe I wouldn't be. Maybe because I have the talent to speak and to go and to know what they want me to say and the parameters of which I can speak, but I can still deliver the promo that I want to deliver. So maybe because I'm able to do that, they let me do that. And if that's the case, then you are talking about talent, speaking talent with many of these people, and the over-scripting from writers. Why is Paul Heyman able to go out there? There's your proof right there. Paul Heyman is able to go out there most times and deliver a stellar performance on the microphone. And I guarantee most of what he came up with himself and quickly ran perhaps by Vince McMahon. Well, if that's the case, then it comes down to intellectual. I don't know. I don't know if it comes down to that. I don't know if it does. Maybe it comes down to the confidence that WWE has in you and how much they trust you. And if you've gone out there before and screwed up, they don't trust you. So you're going to be sticking to this script, and that's about it. But what if you say, hey, Vince, I'm not really good with scripts. Even Dean Ambrose said that. Dean said, I'm not really that good with scripts. But what is Dean Ambrose doing? Because even when you put Dean Ambrose on a podcast with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dean Ambrose isn't able to come out of the TV and get me. Stone Cold did. I was entertained by Stone Cold, but Dean was just like, man, why you gotta put me on the spot? What are you doing? Like, what's happening? Like, God damn it, son, have some fucking fire in your ass. Like, I mean, I came out of that interview, like, just depressed about Dean Ambrose. Absolutely depressed about Dean Ambrose. And I think that that's because Dean Ambrose himself is depressed in the WWE. I think he's like, I finally made it here, and this is what it is. Cool, whatever. Pay me. And that's the sad state of the WWE at this time. My name is Joe Cronin. Hit me up on Twitter at Joe Cronin JCS. If you guys want to support me and you care about my channel, I could of course, use your support, but it's not just you guys giving money. You actually get something because I produce videos on Patreon that you can't hear here. So go there and listen to my bonus videos on Patreon, plus the entire weekly Corrupted podcast on patreon.com/Joe Cronin Show. Guys, if you made it all the way through this video, I thank you so much for listening wherever you are, at work, playing video games, whatever it is. Right down below, hashtag WWE ratings. Hashtag WWE ratings in the comments if you got this far. Thanks again for listening. More videos to come. Hope you guys enjoyed Monetize This and that extra podcast I put up this morning, as well as everything else. I think I'm going to stream today, so look for a patron Q&A today at some point, for patrons only, and also look for a gaming stream today. I'm sure I'll be doing that as well. And remember, my gaming YouTube channel is JCS Gaming, and my Twitch is twitch.tv/Joe Cronin JCS. And my VidMe account is vid.me/Joe Cronin Show. And I think I shouted out everything. And again, if you guys want to support me, $1 a month will get you a good amount of shit. $5, $10, $8, whatever it is. Thanks to Mikey Kaiser and Alice Maroney. Thank you, too. You're the newest patrons today. As I woke up, I saw the alerts that you guys became patrons. Thank you for that. Becoming $5 patrons each. And you guys will have all the bonus content on Patreon.com, as well as I'll be uploading my show I did with Asher. If you guys do $25 a month, I believe there's something where we'll do a show together if you want. If you are one of those patrons and you want to do a podcast with me, you're entitled to, I believe, once a month to do one with me if you're doing that much on Patreon a month. Okay, so make sure you hit me up on Patreon to remind me so me and you can sit there and sort of chat about wrestling, and we'll upload it to the channel too. So, and I think that's for the $20 or $25 a month Patreon or whatever it is. You guys fund the show, so thank you for funding the show. I'm out of here. What do you think about everything I said about WWE, guys? Back to the Hardy situation with GFW and Brock Lesnar going back to the UFC. And how do you feel about Brock Lesnar? Are you sick of him in WWE showing up once in a while? I don't know. This was a long show. I'll see you guys later.